You're a jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah, man.
That's fire. They just started a camp in the gym that I go and work out in. I was like, I had to ask Justyn, should I start this? Because I love UFC. I love watching fighting. So,
Dude, if you do, it's the best thing you'll ever do. You'll love it.
that's what
Yeah.
everyone says.
Dude, it's like, we could talk for an hour about this.
We're at separate podcasts.
100% separate. Once you start, we'll get back into it. But yeah, man, I got my black belt last year and it was wild. It was wild,
That's
man.
so
But
dope.
you will love it. Try it. And I'm certain that you will love it.
Last year, or no, not last year, 2 years ago when I was 15 to 16, I did boxing.
Nice.
I absolutely loved boxing. Like I did one fight with the kickboxer. He had like 3 fights. So I loved boxing, but I wanted to learn the ground game. So that might be something
Amazing.
I take up this year.
I started both as well. I started both at the same time, boxing and jits, and competed in both. And then when COVID hit, I was like, I just kind of swayed more towards jiu-jitsu and went like basically all in on that. So yeah, it's the best, man. Like you're just going to turn on my do not disturb here. You're going to love it. Like if you try it, you're going to absolutely love it. And you won't turn, dude, especially like being as young as you are. Like I didn't start till I was 29.
And you're a black belt. So
right.
That's
like
crazy.
I am now.
Yeah. Dang. Yeah. I got to take it up. Well, thank you so much, Justyn, for coming on.
No worries.
It's great to have you here.
Great, man. Let's do it.
Awesome. So I wanted to start at the moment with which most people would not talk about. You built a 7-figure gym business, but just before becoming a father, you walked away from it all. So what was the moment you knew you could not stay in the business any longer, even though it was making real money?
It's a great question. And I think you have to rewind quite a bit further, even from exiting. And I say exiting as if it was some glamorous thing. It was quite the opposite. It was literally me just stepping away. And that decision was made years prior. And it was really, it was a business partnership. There was 3 of us. And ultimately, when I think business partnerships need to get treated with as much TLC, which is with as much importance as real relationships do. Because like any type of relationship, they grow, they evolve, what people want, the lifestyle that people live, like all of those things change. And I just think, at least from my experience, the relationships inside of business don't necessarily get fostered and nurtured the same way. So we kind of learned that the hard way. And when I realized that what I wanted for the business and what everybody else wanted for the business were completely different things. And I realized that this was never going to become something that I wanted, both from the direction of the business, but also now being months away from starting a family. I knew I just wouldn't be able to provide for my family on the level that I wanted to be able to provide for my family. And that's one big aspect. The other big aspect too is like, I'm by nature, happy, easygoing, like super chill dude. And whenever I was leaving business meetings or any type of interaction and I'm like stressed and angry and I can feel that's so far from the norm for me that I was like, something has to change. Cause like I can physically tell that my mental health is being compromised. And for me, that was like a line in the sand. And I just knew that I'm not going to have all of the time to feel these things and to dedicate to a losing battle when my son is born. So I need to make a change now, because it'll be not too late, but it'll be significantly later. And when he's born, it's a decision that I should have made months ago.
I think that's such an important point that you hit there. I was listening to a podcast and they touched on just that. We spend so much time prioritizing our friendships and like, oh, not this, not that. And we really dive deep into what friendship is. But then when it comes to business partnerships, it's kind of just like, oh, this guy will work. He worked at Google for a couple of years. He'll work. Or, okay, he worked at an IT. He'll fill the spot that I need, but really look at it under a microscope and be like, will this actually work out in the long term? So
Exactly. And I think that's such an important thing. And I think it's a really important thing that isn't talked about. I mean, think about it, right? Like, of course, the person that you spend the most time with in your entire life is, your life partner, right? The person that you're choosing to be with. But if we are, even if we're just going to say it's a 40-hour work week, for you to spend 40 hours a week with somebody, that's like pretty close to a life partner as well, right?
Right.
And as entrepreneurs, we all know that you don't work 40 hours a week. It's significantly more than that. So imagine spending that much time with somebody and not really paying any mind to the actual relationship that's happening there. It, like anything, right? It's fine until it's not fine anymore. And now all of
Right.
a
It's just a
sudden
mess
you've got
waiting to happen if you don't. Yeah,
exactly.
100%. So, what's your mental framework for distinguishing between success on paper versus success in reality? Because I think what you were able to what you were able to glean from what was going on within business, like this is not true to me. I think most people overlook as just the reality of business. Like, oh, okay, I'm always going to be stressed. I'm always going to do that. And most
Mhm.
people would never walk away from a business that's doing seven figures, like you said. So, like, just touch on your framework from distinguishing between the two.
For sure. So for me, and I think it's unfortunately, I mean, like most things in life, we go and we learn through them. We learn them the hard way. And for me, it was for the longest time. To me, the perception of success was success,
Hmm.
and it took me a really long time to realize that that's really not the case at all. So building a bigger team, building a bigger company that does more revenue, that is, that all of these people from the outside looking in are like, dude, you're crushing it. It's going so well. That doesn't really mean that behind the scenes, everything is good. Like we were doing 7 figures a year, over 7 figures a year in revenue. Absolutely. We were spending almost 7 figures a year in expenses, right? Everything from
Right.
payroll to rent to everything in between. So like when you actually look at it, there was opportunity, right? For sure. And there was definitely money that could have been made long term, but it wasn't right, like it just wasn't
Hmm.
the right way to approach it. Whereas, and I'll contrast with the business I'm running now. I'm not making 7 figures a year right now, but my expenses are also so damn low that
Right.
90 cents of every dollar that I'm making, honestly, more is profit. So like which one of those, on paper, when you say 7 figures a year, like, and again, I'm proud to have been able to build a business that was doing that much revenue because it was a grind. But this is part of my decision to leave, right? Was that like
Right.
in order for me, let's just pick a random number to make an extra $10,000 a month personally on paper, the business itself probably would have had to make another 50.
Yeah.
So for me, that's what I really think about. And I think to answer your question more directly, it really comes down to the individual. Like, what's successful to you? Like, what do you deem to be success? Is it to run a team? Is it to make more money personally at the end? Like, what is that metric for you that really moves the needle? I think at the end of the day, most entrepreneurs want to make money because for a number of different reasons, if not more than one. They want to be able to support and take care of their family. They want to buy the things they want to do. They want to live some kind of financial freedom. Um, so I think you really need to figure out what that is for you. And for me, it was being able to provide the life that I want for my family, and that, my fiance and I want to live together and
Hmm.
to build with our growing family. We've got another son on the way in a couple of months. And to me, that's more important than, having somebody look at, this big fitness business or whatever it may be and be like, holy shit, dude. Like at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I would rather be successful and have nobody know about it than to have people think I'm super successful. Meanwhile, I'm like, going insane on the back end.
Right. Well, congrats on the new kid. I didn't know that. That's awesome. But yeah,
Thank you, man. two
success
months
is
away.
definitely, oh, that's awesome. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Amazing.
But yeah, success is so abstract and you can't hold anybody to a specific form of what success means for sure. And I would take profit over revenue any day of the week.
100%. And I think one thing that also isn't really considered, and we, like, I lived this, was that with greater success came greater risk, especially because we
Mhm.
were a bricks and mortar business. So, like, in order to generate more revenue, we in a lot of cases had to spend more money. And then if you don't, for whatever reason, make that revenue that month,
Yeah.
you're now not looking at a $10,000 bill on expenses. It's now maybe 30 or 40 or 50 or whatever it is. So, like, as
Right.
revenue increases, the risk also increases. And again, for me, like, that's probably not a business I'm going to get back into again.
Did you find your risk tolerance changed after having a kid and a family?
100%. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's honestly a big part of how things sort of came to be with forming the business that is now formed, right? Was
Mhm.
I've always been, and I touch on this a lot in my content, is like I am still, right. I'm this overthinker, perfectionist. It's the way that I'm wired, and I
Mhm.
would always and have always in the past, like basically built things in a vacuum. I'll spend 6, 8, 9 months building something that I think everybody wants, and then release it, and then hope that the world is like, oh my god, I'm going to buy that. And then when it doesn't happen, it's really hard to come back from because you've invested so much time and maybe even actual monetary dollars in building something that honestly, like in that particular instance, things need to go so well that it
Yeah,
like justifies it, right? So, and even like a mediocre response is kind of underwhelming. So, yeah.
for sure. That's great. So, what was the hardest part for you of starting over? Was it the financial, emotional, or something else? What was the hardest part?
It's honestly a little of all of that. It was, and they're very intertwined because when you start over and you have to start from zero, and again, in this particular instance, I literally just walked away from the business, right? And I had to also spend a lot of money, a lot of my like savings basically I had to empty in order to like get myself out of that situation. And so it wasn't even honestly starting from ground zero. I was starting below. I was starting
Mm,
below zero, and it was like I have to claw my way back. So it's just again when you're talking about like a family and growing a family and building a family, like the risk is higher because on one side of things, it's like I can't afford to fail again. And also like there are real bills that need to get paid, like
right,
all the bills that come along with raising a family and having a home and all of that stuff, right? Like it's real risk. So, and that's why as part of my story was like after when I started from zero again, like I also got another job. Like I also got another job because it was an opportunity that serendipitously came to me, which was great. But again, because of all of those real life commitments, I couldn't say no. Like I had to
right.
do it.
Now, what were you able to learn about yourself through this situation?
I think I think there's a lot of lessons that I learned, and I think some of the biggest lessons that I learned aren't. There's actually quite a few. One of them, I think, that was probably the hardest lesson to learn was really realizing that not everybody is in your life for your whole life. And with friendships, they come and go, and I think what's tough is that we always think that like our friends are our friends forever, right?
Yeah,
And when you realize and accept that like that's not necessarily the case and that's okay, it's it's okay.
yeah,
Like your friends are your friends. I mean, if you can keep them forever, that's amazing, right? That's great. But like I said, we evolve and we change and our priorities change. And it's the same way, like you even look like, somebody like younger, like your age, right? Like your friendships and dynamics will change when one of your friends, or if you get in like a long-term serious relationship and not everybody's single anymore, right? The same thing happens, right? It's
yeah.
just when you're starting a family and other people aren't like, so that dynamic changes, right? And I think that's okay. And I think other lessons that I learned along the way is that like I said, right, you need to be able to fail because that's where you're going to learn the most. Like I wish we could all learn from other people's mistakes, and like to
Yeah,
some degree we can, but in reality that's just not the way that life actually plays out. We make
right.
mistakes, they suck, we have to go through it, and then we improve and we get better, right? But I think at the end of the day, like if you're willing to put yourself out there and fail, and I think this is why mentioning what I did before about how this whole experiment came about was you don't want to put and invest too much time into something for it to fail because then the consequences are much bigger. If
Mhm.
you can do small little things and fail and iterate and improve along the way, then it really is going to make you so much more progress along the way, right? So, and I think that's maybe one thing that when you look at like I don't want to call it the guru space, right? But like when you hear of, these big personal brands online talking about like you have to fail and you have to improve and like that's how you learn. I think the context that's missing from that is like we need to do that on a small scale over and over and over because we're
Right.
able to get so much more data and make improvements right away and make those changes instead of being like, oh, I worked on this thing for a whole year and then nobody bought it. And now
Yeah.
what do I do? Because I just wasted a whole year.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think you even see that within content. Like they'll tell you, like, yeah, you have to post every single day, and then like you'll hear people like, oh, well, I posted every single day for 3 months, and absolutely nothing happens. And you look at the videos, and it's like all virtually the same. They weren't iterating or learning or getting feedback from any of the content. So that's such a viable process that you have to go through. You can't just put it out there and expect. You have to
100%.
reiterate and get feedback.
100%. Again, like all of these messages that we hear online, like you got to post every day, like it's all true, right? It's just we're always missing some little underlying
Yeah,
context to it because there's only so much you can say in 60 seconds.
right.
But like you said, right? You could post every day, and the people who don't like it, don't have something hit get frustrated. But then you look at what they've been posting, and it's the same thing every day. Exactly to
Yeah.
what you said, right? We need the data. That's what we really need. Data so we can make informed decisions. One thing that I love, I mean, there's lots of things I love about Hormozy, but I'm not going to go on a Hormozy, love rant. But he talks about like your ability to learn is entirely based off of how fast you can make a mistake, change your actions and then reapply that. Because if you just make
Right.
the same mistake over and over, even though you say you're learning, you're not learning anything.
Right. It's the speed in which you iterate what you learn from, you know what I mean? Yeah,
Exactly.
100%. Now, going from the gym to AI, not many people do that. So what was the in between and how did you scale up so fast within the AI space?
So I think for me, it was like timing was just perfect, basically. From the time where I was really ramping things up at the gym, and that's pretty much right around when ChatGPT dropped, right? AI dropped. I'm like, I've always been like sort of tech forward and
Mhm.
always early adopting everything, to my detriment in my bank account when I always wanted the new phones, right? But I was like, I need to figure out like how can I use ChatGPT to help me write email newsletters and help me with ad copy and those types of things. That's kind of how I got into it. And then when I did leave the gym, and then I started working with my other gym owner consulting clients, so I was consulting with other gym owners, the questions really started to become more frequent about like, well, what's AI and how do I use it and how can we use it to help our business? And so I started implementing, um, because I would run like automations for these companies for the lead nurture and all that stuff. And then so I started integrating in like AI chatbots and
Mm.
how do we have AI handle all the lead nurture? So like it was a snowball that kept spinning and kept getting larger. And then when I was also working at this other company, I really started diving in more on the AI agent side of things. And I've been building automations in my business for years, but that's when I really started diving into AI agents and like how can we have AI agents now handling a lot of the stuff that right now is being, you know, all done manually for our clients and retention and reordering and all that type of stuff.
Mm, great. Now, what knowledge were you able to take from the gym business and then apply it towards your new content creation AI business?
Phew. It's funny, right? Because like you said, they seem like they have absolutely no relation to one another, right? But the amount of stuff that I learned just from like a business perspective is huge. And I think for me, that is the biggest piece that I've taken from that into, and I'll take it
Mhm.
into whatever I do going forward. And I mean, honestly, like timing of this was also perfect. We signed up for Gym Launch back when Hormozy was still involved in 2020, right before COVID hit. So, like, again, I thought, we know everything. I know everything about business. And then I started learning like what business actually is. And that's something that I'll always take with me going forward. So, like, sure, the technical skills of automations and funnel building and lead magnets and all that stuff, of course, but really understanding the nuances of like business is just math, right? Like,
Right.
it just comes down to math. And the way I used to operate the business before we signed up for Gym Launch was really like, oh, we didn't get enough member signups this month. So let's just make more sales next month. That doesn't really give you much. Post Gym Launch and after that world, when I really understood business, was like, well, now we track all of our metrics. And if we are not getting enough members this month, let's look at which of those metrics is down. So we know that, oh, we actually have a show rate problem where we're getting lots of leads. The leads are communicating, but they're just not actually showing up for XYZ appointments. So we
Yeah.
know which dial to turn or which thing to fix. So it's really about that side of business that I will take from there into anything I do going forward.
That's awesome though, because like in content creation, you need to have those business skills to be able to monetize it. And that's definitely something me and Nas touched on it. That's something creators are lacking. Like, yeah, you could go viral, but if you don't know how to build a business, then you're not going to be, you know what I mean? So you being able to already have those skills and be able to pull those out of your toolkit and then apply them toward content creation is awesome. That definitely sets you ahead of a lot.
For sure. And I think there's an interesting side. For context, not most, but pretty much everything I'll talk about with relation to content, I think we can probably agree. There's like an entertainment side of content. There's an education side of content.
Right.
Obviously, with everything I provide, it's all on the education side. So everything I say contextually is going to be related to that. But I think really when creators are starting to make content, they're kind of in one of two camps. They're either in the camp of they're creating content around a specific offer or company that they already have, or they're creating content and they have no idea what their offer is, and they're just going to allow the audience and their expertise to kind of figure it out as they go, right? And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people do that. That's the camp that they're in. That's what I was in. And excuse me, because that's the angle that they have. And if they don't have the skill set that I just mentioned, they're like, well, cool, I'm building content and it's actually going pretty well. And now I've got an audience, but now I'm just missing those pieces of like, how do I now turn this into a business? Like now I
Right.
got to figure out funnels, I got to figure out automations, I got to figure out all of these things. And that's a big gap. And I think, this is that skill set that I learned is helpful to plug that.
For sure. No, your growth has been absolutely insane on social media. You have
Thank you.
over 138K on TikTok and 73K on Instagram. So, what's been your posting cadence and how did you navigate the social media landscape when you first came into it?
So again, as I said, this all started as an experiment for me to break myself of those bad habits that I had built over the years, right? That perfectionism, the overthinking, the just like getting in my own way. And I would always add so much friction. And so my goal literally was I'm just going to post at least once a day for 30 days just for fun. I was like, I've learned a ton about AI. Let me just share it, right? Like,
Mhm.
what's the worst that could happen? So I did that. And things started to hit pretty quickly. And I have still posted at least once every day since. And that was April 17th of last year. And that's just past the 10-month mark. So I just was consistent about it. And when I started, I was only on TikTok. And like I said, things hit pretty quickly. And then around August, I then created a new Instagram account and started that one as well. So now I've just honestly tried to stay, like we talked about, I tried to stay consistent and I've tried to I think there's a couple main things. I've tried to stay consistent because for me, I know that building that habit of just doing it
Right. Yeah, for sure.
is so important. It wasn't it wasn't about trying to be perfect. It was about like, I'm just going to experiment and I'm still doing that. And I think it's easy to, especially not to say that I've been in this for a long time because I haven't, I'm still really new. I think it's easy to, at a certain point, get too wrapped up in the metrics to be like, I need to put out something that I know is going to perform and only going to perform. And I don't take that perspective.
Hmm.
If something flops, I mean, we all hate when something flops, but like it is what it is, right? But I'm not
Right.
afraid of that happening because I might try a new format and like, oh my God, it worked. Or I'll try it and it didn't work. And to your point earlier, that's just giving me more evidence and more information about, cool, let's try that again, or let's not try that again, or whatever. So again, this was all just an experiment. Post at least once a day, every single day, and see what happens. And again, I'm trying to reverse all of those bad habits. So
Right.
I'm not trying to build something in a vacuum that I know people are going to want. I'm going to create something and put it out there. And if there's a response for it, I will then fulfill on the demand.
100%. Now, what have you learned about the hooks, formats, and kind of structures of content that you've made that has gone viral? Kind of touch on that a little bit, the patterns you recognize within viral content.
What's interesting about this is that I think things change pretty quickly, but I think the nuances of it remain a little similar. Now, I think that we're playing in a good space, right? Like AI is pretty much every day like the
Yeah.
hottest topic. And maybe that's just my algorithm, but I think everybody to some degree is like they either love AI, they hate AI, or they're confused, or they don't know what. Like it's a good topic to be making content about. So that I will start with. when it comes to hooks, what I've found, and I think each platform is a little bit different, right? Like
For sure.
people, the psychology of the user is a little bit different when they're on each platform. But for me, what I've tried to do is like, how can I hook somebody in? Bad choice of words, but how can I bring somebody into the content by trying to pique their interest at least just a little bit so they want to stick around to see more? I try and focus on that because I know that if they don't stick around to the video, then it doesn't really matter what I say after that. If I can't provide, if I can't provide them a reason to stick around, then they're gone.
Yeah.
Like, and I want them to stick around so that I can then provide value to them. And I think it is a bit of a game that we have to play
Yeah.
to hook them in. So I just try and keep it short. I try and keep it snappy. And like I said, I like to test a bunch of things. Is it a green screen? Is it me from this angle? Is it me sitting in front of my desk where I'm just holding my selfie camera? Like I like to play around with a bunch of different things. And quite honestly, I've found success with all of them. And I've also seen failures with all of them. So, sometimes you just need to be willing to experiment and, like I said, to fail.
Yeah, the hooks, I love what you touched on there because it is so important. Like, even if you are providing educational content, because I hear a lot of people like, well, I'm providing education. I don't really care about the hook. It doesn't really matter. But it does because you're competing against slop, brain rot, and all sorts of forms of content. And if you want them to be able to learn from your content and take that education seriously, you've got to be able to hook them for at least 3 to 4 seconds. You know what I mean?
For
So,
sure.
yeah,
Exactly. And I think from the creator standpoint, I think we get tired of our own content more than other people do, or at least faster than other people do. So
for sure.
we may feel bad about repurposing a formula that works. But again, it's important to do that assuming that your priority and your focus is getting more eyeballs. And I do think there's different types of content that you need to put out, and there are types of content where you just want to cast a really big net and bring a whole bunch of people closer to you. And then some of your other pieces of content, ones where you're connecting a little bit more with your audience and you're maybe telling your story, those are going to get less views inherently, but you've already cast a big net, you've brought people in, especially on platforms like Instagram where your content is served to people who are following you. That's a way to connect with those people a little bit better. So
Mm.
there are different focuses of each different piece of content.
Yeah.
But again, don't be afraid to double down on something that's working. Like
If you're
one of
okay,
the things
what's,
that I talked about with I did a workshop last month specifically about creating content for solo founders. And one of the things was, don't be afraid to say the same thing twice, right?
yeah.
Like think about your favorite bands, specifically your favorite bands on tour. They play the same songs every single night, night in and night out, right? And you love that. And that's why you go see them
Yeah.
because you know what they're going to play. But we as creators are like, oh, I've already said that, so I can't say it in another video. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, yes, you can. Second of all, I'm going to guarantee you that your entire audience has not seen that piece of content that you put out yesterday. So it's okay to say it again. So there's all of these different angles to it, but it's
For
okay to
sure.
say the same thing twice.
If you're okay, can we dive into a little bit more of the formats like you touched on? There are different formats, and can you speak to the importance of each?
Definitely. I'm going to illustrate this. And I was in a program at the end of last year. I'm still in it, but I learned this at the end of last year that I think was really, it was a big awakening moment for me, especially when it comes to sort of what I touched on before, the thought of a funnel, right? Because we all think about like, whether we're talking about a sales funnel or just like a funnel of an actual customer's journey or a client with you, right? They go from seeing your content and as they hear more about you, they learn about your services and your products, they kind of fall down that funnel until they eventually get down to the purchase, right?
Right.
That's typically how we think about it. For me, it was like this big awakening when I heard my mentor say that don't think about it as a funnel, think about it as a spider web. So you basically have a big spider web with, all of the different layers and the rungs of that web. And that's what all of your different pieces of content are. And sometimes they'll land on the outside, which is more of your broad spectrum content that's going to bring a lot of people in. In our world, that's this ChatGPT prompt is insane. It's like that type of stuff where
Yeah.
it just hits a mass audience, right? And then some of your stuff a little more on those inner rings of a spider web could be connection content about like, this is my story, right?
Mhm.
That way, those people who have now landed on the outside, they might land a layer in, and it doesn't go linear like that, right? They don't go from the outside to the inside to the next rung in the same way it works in a funnel. People just kind of land all over the place, and then they eventually land
Sporadic.
in the middle, right? Where they had that purchase. So the way that I like to think about it is and I don't overcomplicate it, right? I'm basically thinking about like what's going to bring what's going to be that broadest spectrum content, the thing that's going to bring the most people in, like cast that wide net. And that can
Mhm.
be about the AI news and the AI tools and that type of stuff. And then for me, I think one rung in is talking about like maybe specific products or workshops or things that I'm doing. And then the innermost layer is that connection layer with me. This is my story. I'm a dad. I'm a jujitsu black belt who like, you know, does crazy fitness shit. Or like, you know, I was $60,000 in debt and had zero, and my son was about to be born in 2 months. Like, because there are so many different people who offer similar services to as what I do, and that's okay. Somebody in my audience may resonate with me because of something in my story, and somebody else may resonate with somebody else. I'm like, that's fine. There's enough people and customers and clients to go around, and I
Right.
want the people who work with me to be, because they obviously trust in what I do. They like my expertise, but you know, they want to work with me and they see themselves in me at some point.
Yeah, there's a big difference between just like broad viral entertainment content and then having a strong personal brand. And I think that's like kind of what you're alluding to here. And like I really am trying to prioritize this year personal branding. And I think that's the key when it comes to content is the personal brand. Cause like you just said, yeah, somebody might be doing the exact same thing with AI tools or teaching this or that, but they're coming for Justyn. You know what I mean? The personal level of you, the connection, because we as humans we connect on a human level.
Mm-hmm.
So there's more layers to a personal brand than just entertainment content. And I think if you can prioritize building a strong personal brand, then you're set up for years.
100%, I agree, and I still think it's a superpower, right? Like, I just think that like everybody has a unique story. Like they have not a story, they have a set of stories that makes them,
Right.
right? And again, one of the things I learned in my program last year was your audience is going to, I should rephrase, your story is going to be told. You can either choose if you tell your story or if your audience fills in the blanks and makes up what they think the story about you is.
Right.
It's like, you know, we look at these other people who have these big brands, and whether we relate to them or not, we know their story because they're telling it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
So yeah, don't leave it up to the imagination. Tell your story. Yeah.
if it's going to be told one way or the other, wouldn't you like to be in control of that?
Right. 100%. So now I want to kind of dive more into the AI side. I think we've covered a little bit of the content creation. We'll probably
Hmm.
dive a little deeper, and then also your story. But if someone watching has never used AI in their business, what's the first tool you think they should use in the exact use case?
So it's good. It's a good question. And it's a question I get often. First of all, when it comes to the exact tool, I don't think it matters. I think there's like a base layer that they should start with, and it's your ChatGPT, your Claude, your Gemini, like your Microsoft Copilot. I think whichever one is the most accessible to you is the one you should start with. For example, some people in their company can only use Microsoft products because that's just the
Right.
ecosystem they live in, right? I don't think it really matters in the beginning. I think you just need to be able to. And my recommendation is usually just like go to ChatGPT and start talking to it, right? It's not crazy advice. And if they don't have any, you know, specific guidelines or frameworks because of work, just go to ChatGPT and start talking to it. Ask it things you should be asking. Ask it how it can help you. Just like literally start that conversation. I think where people go wrong is that they try and overthink things right out of the gate. They're like, and I understand, right? Every single day it seems like there's a new model or a new
Yeah.
tool, and there's so many, and we all have analysis paralysis. Like you and I are in this industry and we wake up and we're like, oh my God, like, how are we supposed to keep up? In my community, it's like every single week when we get on the phone or on, on the phone, how old am I? On our on our Zoom meeting, like there's new tools to talk about.
Yeah.
But like cut all the noise. Like forget all of that stuff because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Most people try and dabble in 5, 10, however many different pieces of software. And they never get good at any of them because they just never figure out how to actually use any of them. So like start with one of the juggernauts, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever. And then just start talking to it and figure out how it can help you because it will be able to help you, right? Everybody feels now, and I think this is universal, everybody feels like they're falling behind. But if you're trying to use those tools, you're not falling behind. Like, you're just learning at your own pace, and that's okay. The other thing that I will say that I always recommend to people is pay for a damn subscription.
Yeah,
Like,
so true.
it's $20 a month, but
Y
even that little investment, it will make you care that much more that you'll actually put like just a little bit more effort into actually learning and figuring it out. I think a
yeah.
lot of people they overvalue their money and they undervalue their time. They're like, I don't want to pay $20 a month. That's insane. And then they'll spend like 6 hours building out like one email. It's like,
Yeah, so true. Yeah, that's if you're not paying for at least one AI subscription, like if you're on the free plan, you might actually be behind. Let's just be for real. You're probably behind in all reality. But no, definitely like I say that all the time, like tiny steps, just increase the amount of time. Like just take tiny steps every single day to learn, you know what I mean? And then just
mhm,
increase your daily time spent because this is going to be around for forever now. Like it's here. So you got to
mhm.
spend time learning it. And the faster you do that, but don't be afraid to take tiny steps.
100%. I agree. I think everybody tries to do too much, right? Again, like all these things are sort of in our nature, right? Like the
Yeah.
overthinking, the perfectionism, trying to do everything. Like the saying Rome wasn't built in a day, like it's true for a reason, right? It's like you're not trying to become an AI expert overnight. It's like if you sign up for ChatGPT today and then do nothing else, like that's a good step. Like that's a great step one. Tomorrow, ask like, hey, ChatGPT, who the hell are you? Like, what should I do? And then
Yeah.
like it'll start to snowball. And I think what's really cool, because I had so many conversations with people who are in this particular position, in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, all of a sudden they're using Claude Cowork. And it's like,
Yeah.
a month ago, you didn't even know what AI was. And now look at you, right? It just happens.
Right, you learn pretty damn fast, especially
Exactly.
when you get into this.
Yep.
Now, what's your process for using AI to scale your content without losing your personal voice? Because I think a lot of people they'll try and overuse AI when it comes to content creation, and they lose
hmm
their voice, or it's just
hmm
AI kind of cloning or slop. So,
Yeah. So I think for me, there's a couple of different things, right? And I understand why certain people do a few different things, right? They will batch record or they will push content across all different platforms or they will leverage AI and automations in a way that honestly is more efficient. And I haven't done that in most cases, but that's been by design. Because, like I said earlier, I wanted to build the muscle of creating content. So
yeah,
I don't want to I didn't want to put myself in a position where I'm just like recording and batching everything once and then I'm never actually getting in that habit of doing it. So for me, with where I think about it is like my ideation stuff is kind of the most important layer. It's like I want to come up with the ideas myself, and I pull those ideas from a whole bunch of different places, right? Everything from news to like what's the viral stuff that people are talking about, all the way through to like obviously things about me, but like what are the products that I'm trying to sell, right? Like how do I want to help people? So I just really try and put my own spin on things and try and just remain as much me as I can. And I'll just sort of use AI to speed up the process, right?
mm,
I think now, like I mentioned, you've got amazing tools like Claude Cowork where you can build lead magnets super fast. And instead of me saying like, here's this huge, you know, 10, 10, whatever, 10 page, 10 video course that I put together, it's like, look at the thing I just built with Claude Cowork. It's awesome. Try it
yeah.
out. And if you want it, here it is. So I'm just trying to come across, do things authentically and use AI to basically be a superpower to supercharge what I'm able to do and my productivity levels, as opposed to like, I'm not trying to replace myself
Love it.
yet.
Yeah. That's what I always try to advise because people, it's always like, well, I'll just get AI to do it, or I'll just clone my face. And I'm like, well, at the point where now, if you're going to start creating content, you really need to, like you just said, build that muscle and get into the fine details of it, or you'll never understand it. And personally, I don't think you'll gain that much success from it. You got to really be in it and don't lose your voice or who you are. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because, like we just mentioned, that's so important to a personal brand. And you kind of lose that when you over AI everything.
I totally agree. And I think again, this is another big thing that I hit on in the workshop that I gave last month, which was all about helping solo founders build the systems to create content sustainably. Because most
Mhm.
people are like, oh, I didn't make that video today. I'll get to it tomorrow. And I mean, think about it like this, right? There's so much content out there, which is great content about, you know, download these 1,000 viral hooks or whatever, right? Everybody has those sitting in their inbox, but they're
Yeah.
still not making content, right? So it's like, what's the problem? There's a problem before all of that. It's not even so much that you don't like have the stuff to post. It's that you're missing the thing before that, which is, in my case, like I said, building that muscle of like, okay, just do this. So people try to replace themselves before there's anything to replace.
Yeah. Exactly. Now, let's take one of your pieces of content, but let's reverse engineer it. So let's take
Mhm.
one of your pieces of content, start at ideation, then if you're scripting, but walk me through your process of beginning from idea to post it on social media.
Yeah. So for me, what I'll do is I'll come up with an idea of, and when I ran everybody through this in my content workshop, I was like, this is going to underwhelm all of you. So I'm just going to give you the heads up right away. Like it's not as sexy as you might think it is. So I'll come up with an idea. And I'm essentially thinking about like, what are the things that I want to get across in this video? How can I bring people in? How can I keep them engaged to have some sort of curiosity loop that's open that I'm going to close at the end? And I always try, there's basically three things that I want to hit on besides the content, obviously, like besides the meat and potatoes of what I'm giving away. But I always want to think about, I want to have some form of engagement early, whether that's enticing people to comment something down below or to save the video. I want to try and fill I want to try and fill at least 5 seconds with an intro of myself. And then I want to give people, again, towards the end of it, a reason to engage again. And to, let's say, if early on it's save this, then there's an intro piece of me. Then at the end, before I give away the final piece of information, there's a like comment XYZ for the lead magnet that I'm giving away. Right.
Mm,
And I do that before giving away and the last piece of information, which closes the full loop. Because typically, if you do that after you've given away the information, the person's already scrolled and they're gone. Because that
right.
curiosity loop that you open at the beginning is now closed, and technically they have no reason to stay.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So yeah,
yeah.
that's great.
No, go ahead.
So it's messaging because I just want to get this.
Hmm.
You focus on idea and messaging, and then from there, it's some sort of CTA in the beginning to keep them.
Hmm.
Then content, whatever that is, the message, the information, education, and then the CTA again, and then the payoff. Am I hearing that right?
Exactly. So basically, what I try and do is I try and think about like framing. I try and think about framing the actual topic itself. Like, how can I frame the topic in a way where you almost know what you're getting, but you don't fully know what you're getting? And I think the easiest example of this is when people use the like, here are X number of tips to do Y, right? The reason why that framework works so well, and you can extrapolate and change that framework, but the reason why that works so well is because the viewer knows I'm going to get three things by
Yeah.
the end of this video, as opposed to I'm going to get mystery number of things by the end of this video. Like psychologically, it's it's a lot more enticing for you to know exactly what you're going to get without knowing exactly what you're going to get. So for me, that's how I try and think about packaging it. I'm like, okay, this is my topic. How many things do I want to talk about? And again, you don't need to be specific. Like, I'm going to give you three different ways of using ChatGPT. Like, it doesn't need to be that sort of cookie cutter. But for me, that's how I'm thinking about the video. I really think about what's the idea and how can I entice somebody to stay? That's my hook, right? What's the thing that I want to talk about? And how can I basically take them along a journey which then validates the hook that
Mm,
is open that curiosity loop. And then along the way, I like to place, that soft CTA, which is save this. And if I
yeah.
can fit it, a little intro about myself. And then at the end, it's comment X, Y, and Z for a lead magnet. And they don't always have those three things. If I can get all three in, great. If not, that's okay too.
It's awesome. Yeah, those the comments like the CTA comments using like mini chat and stuff has been absolutely insane on
Mhm.
social media, and I know you've used it. So how much does that contribute to your videos going viral as like before you used it and after?
I think it helps a lot. So funny enough, when I first started, on TikTok. TikTok doesn't have the same capabilities of using the ManyChat automations the same way that Instagram does. So I would reply to all the comments and send
Yeah.
the DMs and do everything manually. And it took forever. Like one of the first videos that I had hit, I was like, comment X, Y, and Z for this AI agent guide. And I was like, if 3 people want the guide, like I'll build it, I'll write it, I'll put it together and I'll send it to them, no problem. And then like over the course of a weekend, I had like 2,500 comments. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
So, I just manually did it. But having a tool like ManyChat is super helpful, obviously, because it allows you first to build the automations, which is great, but it just allows you to provide that value, whatever the lead magnet is to people. And then, on the actual virality side of things, it's engagement, right?
Mhm.
It's asking people to engage, which pushes your video out more. And then you are commenting back automatically, which again is helping the algorithm with the engagement. So, like, it is part of having that traction built up. And I think another thing that, you see typically from my experience do really well on like a virality side of things is when there's like either a little bit of controversy in your video. It doesn't need to be like black and white, like
Yeah,
controversy, like, people having a full on disagreement. But if people don't either fully understand or fully agree with, what you're saying, that usually entices people to comment more. Right. And it's not to say that you want to like necessarily like give people bad information. Like, I'm not saying it that way, but if people have questions or they want to learn more or they're like, just intrigued about what it is you're talking about, then they will be more likely to comment, which, as we said, comments are going to help, that video get pushed out.
for sure. Now, on the topic of like whatnot, what's your tech stack for creating content? What are the different tools you're using when you're creating content?
It's pretty simple. Like I said, what I laugh about this. I have a broken iPhone 13 Pro Max. Every day I'm like, I should upgrade. I'm like, maybe tomorrow.
It works. Yeah.
It works. It works. So that's what I use for my camera. I still record my videos either in the TikTok app, in edits, and I use CapCut to do any of my editing. So any of the videos that like look a little bit better, that have some, decent cuts in it, it's all done with CapCut. So from that side of things, the tech stack is very simple.
Yeah.
On the
Even though we laugh about it, it's so important because people think they overcomplicate things when they're trying to start out. And I've heard like June and now you're saying it,
Mhm.
like huge grew to like almost 3 million with just an iPhone. So like you can start with virtually nothing and really grow a very large audience. So don't
100%.
overcomplicate it. Just get started as fast as possible.
I completely agree. Especially like, again, it's the same trap that I fell into before. And it like, you're pushing yourself into this path of attempting perfection, which is just going to cause you to fall off, right? Like, people will watch a video that has bad video, but they won't watch a video that has bad sound.
Yeah.
And I think that is huge. And like, one of the things I talk about is the content doom loop, which is basically like everybody wants to create content. They want to put themselves out there. So they come up with an idea and then they end up putting way too much time into creating a video, right? Like way too much, whether it's the scripting side, the filming, the editing, or all of the above. And then they put it out there and they get low engagement or low results, whatever they deem to be their metric, right? And then they get super discouraged.
Yeah.
And then they either do quit right away or they repeat that loop a couple times and then they're like, this isn't worth it, I'm not going to do it, right? So for me, it was like, remove all the friction. Selfie camera, cool. No microphone when I started, no problem. But that's
Yeah.
why $100 that I spent on this, DJI mic mini was like the first investment that I made. It was like, okay, let's just make the sound a little bit better. So I keep it super simple, and I think there's a level of authenticity with that.
For sure. And you can even use voice enhancements now. Like
Exactly.
you don't even need a microphone. Like there's no excuses nowadays if you're trying to get into
Exactly.
content. All right. So let's get into a little bit of rapid fire
Yep.
questions to kind of go through this. You have over 200,000 followers who trust your AI advice and personal opinions. If you could only teach them one thing about AI, what would it be and why?
You don't need to learn everything overnight. Like, you using it, even at the most basic level, is putting you way ahead of a lot of other people. So don't feel like you're behind, because you're not. Literally start small, and that snowball will build and grow so fast. So, like I said, it's very similar to what we talked about earlier. Just start using any platform. Pick one, go deep, and pay the $20 or whatever it is for the monthly subscription fee. That is like the best advice. I think anybody who is feeling overwhelmed and doesn't know where to start, that's what they should do.
Agreed. Your content gets millions of views. When you wake up tomorrow morning, what's the first thing you do in your content creation process? We kind of already touched on it.
In most cases, I will have at least the thought of an idea planned, but I'll say this. I'll say it this way instead. Thinking and actually creating the video is one of the first things that I will do in my workday, because it is, I still find, and I think most people fall into this trap, especially those people who really struggle and can't and aren't creating content. It's the thing they push till the very end. And therefore it's the thing that gets pushed to tomorrow. And that always happens. And I'm no different. If I don't do it first thing in the morning, it becomes harder and harder to do at the end of as the day progresses. So for me, in my work day, once I've got my son off to daycare, in my work day, the first thing, if not the very first, it's one of the first things I will do, is get my video done for the day. Doesn't mean I'll post it right then, but my video will be done.
What's one thing you hope the audience learns from your story, from starting from zero to now? What's one piece of information you want them to take away from this conversation?
That it's okay to start over. As scary as it is, sometimes it's going to be the best thing you could possibly ever do. And I think at the end of the day, if you can stick with something, if you can do the boring work, if you can just be consistent over time, you will literally win, because very, very, very few people can actually do that. I think the longer that you can go without getting results, but still continue to produce, like, it's hockey stick growth. It may not hit today, it may not hit tomorrow, but when it does hit, it will hit big and it will all be worth it. One of a great saying that I read, I believe it was in Noah Kagan's book, was, what if you were 5 no's away from everything you ever wanted in your life? Right? If you knew that, you wouldn't stop at the 4th no, right? If you asked somebody for help and you knew that they were going to say no, and the next 4 people were going to say no, or the next 3 people were going to say no, but then the 5th person would say yes, you would do whatever you could to get to that 5th no as fast as you could, right? So I think people just need to be consistent. The longer you can just do it. And the last thing I'll say on that is, if somebody is interested in creating content, whether they want to become a creator or they just want to create content to, further their existing business, find something in it that you love and do that. Like, do you love going on walks? If you do, then just record videos while you're on your walks, right? Like, we make this more difficult than we need to be. So find something that you really love and enjoy. And because, again, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you will quit. You may not quit today or tomorrow, but you will quit. So if you can find some love in it, then that'll completely change the game.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Justyn. I know I've learned a lot from this conversation, more about you as well as content. So thank you for coming on and giving us this awesome.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir, for sure.